Today, I want to call the talk Intuition 101 because it really is a basic ability, a basic skill that we all have. And it is super basic. And if you saw one of my previous videos about the yes and the no, that is absolutely the basics of feeling that flow, that energy, that expansion, that contraction. And so many of us have missed that and still do. And then we override it and go here or go there, and we get in trouble. The reason that this has become such a big thing for me that I want to share a lot of it is that when I had a big spiritual awakening in Denmark in the late 80s, I believe it was. And I was in this incredibly beautiful, expanded state of oneness and love and all the goodies that we all want for a number of months. And then I ran into a situation where I had somebody basically talk me out of what I knew to be true at that moment. When the question was asked, I don't feel I need to go into the whole detail here, but the question was asked and I got a clear no, like no. And I even spoke it, but I let myself talk out of this inner knowing, this intuition, this deep energy that just knows. It's pure, it's unadulterated, it's just there. And I let myself be talked out of that. And it sent me into probably a 5 months absolute hell ride. And it took me a long time to kind of figure out what had really happened. And you know what? It came down to the basics that I'm talking about now. And I didn't have that in me. Nobody had ever told me about it. I was still living in my mind, thinking that others knew better than I, even though I had that big, deep experience. There was still something in me that was not trusting that. And it's crazy when I look back. And it's really sad because I see so many people do that. I was going to say mostly women, but I think men do it also in their own way. And that's why it's very close to my heart to talk about this, mostly to women, but certainly to men too, and anybody can relate to this. But I have been more focused on women because that was my own journey where I didn't trust my own wisdom, my own knowing, intuition, and let myself be talked out of this by a man who claimed to be in a bigger authority than I was. Very common. Absolutely something we need to be aware of and know that we do not need to do that anymore. So this basic knowing of a yes and a no is the foundation of it all. And today I want to just ask you to maybe think about a time where you knew something and you let yourself talk out of it. You might know many instances because we've all done it, ad nauseum. But when you take an example, it could be a big event, could be a small event, could be something that happened an hour ago, where you just inside you're going like, and then something in you would override that and say yes, okay, and then do it. And then as you're doing it inside, you're getting resentful with yourself, you're putting yourself down, you're doubting yourself. There's all this crazy battle that goes on inside when we're not listening to that initial knowing. That is your intuition. And your intuition is always on task. It's always right. Not necessarily, I mean, we may still learn the language of it. So we may still, not quite get it, but don't worry about that. Make this a practice to really learn the language of your intuition, the basics of it. I also call it, our inner GPS, our, what is it, God positioning system or something. Because again, in my experience, and guys, I always speak about my own experience only because that's all I know. I may have learned something from other people, but I want to make it my own reality. And then it feels much more alive to share it. But when we get this inner GPS, and it has felt like, um, I feel it a lot like in my heart or chest as an expansion, a softening, a warmth, a clear knowing. And it feels like my heart is the mouthpiece of the divine. And it's funny, I put my hands outside of myself, but it just feels like it comes from the oneness, the space that is everywhere, inside and out. And it speaks to me, through me, as me, through sensations for the most part for me. Some people hear the still small voice. And again, with a voice, you need to really know, is it your own divine voice, or are there voices, in the ethers that are saying things? But again, if we bring it down to the basics, when I hear it, like if I hear that still small voice, which happens once in a while, I wish it happened all the time, but that's not my guidance system at this point. When I do, it comes with a sense of relief, a deep breath, a click like, oh yeah, there is something that you can kind of feel that it aligns. And again, that is a sensation in the body that you can learn to trust. When that happens, it's like this, oh, deep breath, expansion, relaxation, warmth, whether it's, still small voice or an energetic thing. Learn to pay attention to that so that you start trusting that more than what your mind wants you to believe. The mind is probably right at times, but for the most part, it is not your deeper truth. If the mind comes up with things, go inside and feel, if it's a voice of fear, how does that resonate with you? Do you feel expanded? Do you tell yourself, oh, God is telling me it's scary? No, that's not the language of the divine. It doesn't even know about that. The divine is light, it's expansion. There is no darkness in there. There is nothing to fear. So if you have voices like that, or suggestions like I often talk about, and we all have those, they're thoughts, or there could be something outside of ourselves that are coming in. Check inside. Don't rush to do something that you hear because it scares you, unless there is a knowing like, this is right, I really need to act on this. But it comes from a totally different energy. And that's the one we need to learn to trust. We need to learn to listen to it. And, we will make mistakes. You will make mistakes. I make mistakes. It happens. And that's no problem. How else are you going to learn if you don't take a chance here and there? It's like, okay, let me check this out. Let me check this out. Something that might not be a huge dramatic thing if it's the wrong one, but let me check it out. And then you get to know that inner language, your GPS. It's like these little compasses, a little round one, you can have it in the car, right? And it kind of turns as you turn, and it kind of has a way to show you what direction to go. It's the same in here, it may look differently than that little ball, but there is something that, you just know. It's like, oh yeah, oh no. And you can learn to trust it, but you do need to take time to practice it. So do practice in situations where it's safe, where it's okay if you make a mistake. Maybe you're driving and you don't know, may want to try it without your car GPS and just see. And you're not going to get lost. You can always turn on your car or your phone GPS. But just as a practice, it's like, well, let me try and go here and see if that gets me where I want to go. It can be little things like that that are safe, that can be fun, just for you to start noticing when are you aligned with that inner movement, and then give yourself to that. There are many other ways, and everybody has their own inner GPS. And you and I, we each need to learn our own one. I have one that I've had for years now, and I love that one. It's like when I speak, or if I sit with a client and something comes through me, which happens all the time, I don't think about what I'm going to say. It's always there, but there's times where it's just so obvious. And then I get these shivers or these God bumps or truth bumps. You may have heard of them, or you may have experienced it yourself. Then it's like, okay, I got it. Yeah, this was like spot on. And I just trust that. I have learned to trust it. I have learned to not doubt everything that comes from within, because self-doubt was my middle name. This is not something I was born with. I would ask other people, literally, I would say, hey, what do you think that I feel? That's how far away I was from me, from my divinity. I would ask other people what they thought, the mind, as if they would know what I feel. And like, where did that come from? But that's how insecure I was and how much I doubted myself, because I didn't have any of that when I grew up. It was always like, do as I say, shut up, all that stuff. So I really learned to suppress it all. And I have a feeling there might be somebody here listening to this who had the same upbringing and who's struggling with the same issues. So here's just again, practice the yes, the no, practice checking in and see, do I want to go left or right? Just as a playtime, a time to practice your intuition. And these are the basic ones of the intuition 101, where you need to have that building block. You need to know A, B, C, and then you can add D, and then you can add E. But you need to have the very building blocks first. And that, in my experience, is that sense of yes and no. And like I've shared before, I don't know yet. And then start feeling the movement, Do I want to go here? Do I want to stay? Do I want to go? Do I want to say yes? Do I want to say no? Do I put on the brakes? Or do I want to go with the flow? So there's this, yeah, to me, it's really like flow. It's like water. And then eventually you learn to surf your own wave. And you're not trying to hitch a ride on somebody else's wave, because they're going somewhere else. You need to go with your wave, and that will take you home. There is nowhere else to go. So I hope that's helpful. And I welcome your comments. Of course, I welcome your likes too. And feel free to share this with anybody who also may benefit from it. What better way to share the goodies than to share what touches us with our friends? And I always do my best to comment on any comments underneath. And I wish you a beautiful day practicing, getting in touch with your inner GPS, and just practice. Do not worry about doing it wrong. When you practice, you can't do it wrong. Making mistakes is part of learning a new skill, and they're just as essential as the times where you get it right. So have fun with that.